So this is a time of year for speculation and trade rumors and all sorts of things like that. We've heard how the Eagles might trade back. We've heard how the Eagles might trade up for one of the best pass rushers in the draft. But what if the Eagles take that 25th pick and trade for a veteran premier pass rusher?
Still the cowboy, Mr. McLean. You Americans are all alike. But this time, John Wayne doesn't walk into the sunset with Grace Kelly.
Gary Cooper, asshole!
Oh, Diva! Oh, shit! Oh, shit! That was crazy!
Happy trails, Hans.
Dallas still stinks.
Yo, everybody, boo! King Dingbat here. So what if I told you that for the second straight year, the Eagles bring in a draft prospect for a visit, and it goes horribly wrong? Now, if you remember, 1 year ago, the Eagles brought in Darius Geis, the running back who is now with the Washington Redskins. Very talented running back, we all know. And a lot of us wanted the Eagles to go out and get him. Well, apparently that interview process was horrible. I think it got into a verbal shouting match between Howie and Darius Geis, and it just went bad. The Eagles stayed clear of him. He winds up in Washington. Well, the Eagles brought in Ed Oliver, a guy who is a tremendous, tremendous talent. I like the kid a lot. I like Jeffrey Simmons more than him, but I like Ed Oliver a lot. And he was a guy who the Eagles were definitely considering trading up for and getting. So they bring him in for an interview, and apparently he didn't test well, he didn't interview well, and the Eagles were very, very, very unimpressed with him. Now, I don't think this turned into a shouting match or turned into a verbal altercation, at least nothing like that. It's just that they were very underwhelmed with him 100%. So I think we can probably, if these rumors are true, I think we could probably take him off the board for the Eagles, because if they were that unimpressed, they are not going to trade up for a guy like that. Me personally, I like Jeffrey Simmons. I know he's coming back from a torn ACL. I think the Eagles can wait it out with him. I think he's got tremendous upside. But Ed Oliver did not interview well with the Eagles. It did not go good. So I don't think that he would become an Eagle. I don't think he's a guy that the Eagles would trade up for, And we're hearing a lot of things about the Eagles trading up. I expect the Eagles to trade up. I really, really do. I think that's what's going to happen in this draft, and I'll be shocked if they stay at 25. I really will. I expect them to trade up and try to get a pass rusher. And we've heard rumors from the start of this free agency, start of the offseason, that the Eagles want a premier pass rusher. We've heard this all season. I mean, since the day the season ended, we've heard the Eagles are going to be players for a pass rusher. If a guy like DeMarcus Lawrence or somebody like that becomes available, the Eagles were going to stop and go after him. Okay, now that didn't happen. He signed a big contract. And then we all turned our focus to the draft. And then it became the Eagles want to trade up for a premier pass rusher. There's no question the Eagles are looking to upgrade the defensive end position, I think. They're looking for another guy because we know the Eagles' defense is predicated on that defensive line. That defensive line has to get pressure. And with Schwartz and the lack of amount of blitzes he likes to do, it's really important to get pressure on the quarterback with your front. And if that front four is not getting pressure, you're going to be in trouble. And Schwartz doesn't blitz. I would like Schwartz to blitz more. I'm a big believer in the blitz, okay? I'm old school Buddy Ryan. That's when I grew up. I believe in the blitz. Jim Johnson, blitz, blitz, blitz. He don't do it. So if you're not going to do it, you have to invest heavily in that defensive line. But, that leads me to some speculation. Now, this is going to be purely speculation. This is going to be purely my opinion. There's no validity to this. I've heard nothing concrete except for some chatter out there about this being a possibility, okay? But about a year ago, if you've been with me that long, you remember around this time, maybe shortly after, I did a video saying Khalil Mack and the Raiders don't look like they're close to signing. It don't look good. I think Khalil Mack may become available for a trade. And if he does, the Eagles need to pounce on it, okay? Now, when I did this, a lot of people were like, you're crazy, he's not going to leave. The Raiders would never let him go. Well, what happened? They let him go. They traded him. I think there is a possibility that we may see this scenario take place for a second straight year. A premier pass rusher getting traded in his prime. The guy I'm specifically talking about is one Jadeveon Clowney of the Houston Texans. Now, he's a 3-time Pro Bowler, just turned 26 years old, and I think in March they franchise tagged him. So you're saying, well, if they just franchise tagged him, why would they want to trade him? And the truth is, there's a lot of articles, there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of stuff being written saying that the Texans franchise tagged him to see what DeMarcus Lawrence's contract would be, and once they saw that they would have to pay Clowney about $20 to $21 million a year, it became apparent to them that they were going to probably try to trade him for assets. There was even an article in USA Today on the Texans Wire saying how they should trade Clowney to the Raiders and try to get 2 first-round picks. Now, I don't think they could get 2 first-round picks for him. I don't think the Raiders would give up 2 first-round picks, especially when they just traded Khalil Mack. If you're going to keep somebody, you keep Khalil Mack. Okay, so I can't see the Raiders doing this, but the Texans are looking for assets for Clowney, and don't forget this: they have J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt makes about $15 to $17 million a year. Okay, J.J. Watt gets you 16 and a half sacks, 17 and a half sacks. He's even gotten as high as, I think, 20 and a half sacks. How are you going to justify to J.J. Watt that Jadeveon Clowney should make $5-6 million more a year than him when Jadeveon Clowney has never had double-digit sacks in a year? I don't think you can. Okay, they're going to have to pay their quarterback at some point, Deshaun Watson, just like the Eagles are. And so the Texans have plenty of reasons why they should trade him for assets. We saw it happen last year with Khalil Mack. I think this could happen again. Now, whether the Eagles get involved is a completely different thing. And it is my opinion that the Eagles should get involved. There have been reported several teams, unnamed teams, except for the Rams. The Rams are the only team I know of that apparently have called the Texans and are interested if they make a trade for him. I think the Eagles could be one of those teams. The Eagles did call the Raiders about Khalil Mack last year, but it was too much. I mean, they got a lot for Khalil Mack. I don't think Jadeveon Clowney is as good as Khalil Mack. He's never had over double-digit sacks, 9 and 9.5 the last 2 years, but he's always one of the top guys at tackles for losses. He is a great player, and I think the Eagles, if possible, I think they should try to go ahead and make this happen. If they can't trade up for the guy that they want, maybe the idea is to get that 25th pick. Maybe you get it, a 25th, and I would go as high as a first-round pick, the 25th overall, and a fourth-round pick this year. Since you have 2, I would trade those 2 things for Jadeveon Clowney. Now, remember, he is listed as an outside linebacker in a 3-4 scheme, but I believe he could play 4-3 defensive end on the other end of, let's say, Derek Barnett. I believe he's a 4-3 edge rusher and a 3-4 outside linebacker. So on the Eagles, he would become a defensive end, a pass rusher. And I think he would be great. I think he would be great for the Eagles, especially, with Fletcher Cox in the middle. Texans have a great defensive line too, and I think Jadeveon Clowney is something that the Eagles should consider. If they can't trade up for the guy that they want up at the top, and maybe it was Ed Oliver, and maybe having that bad interview will make the Eagles not want to trade up for him. Well, maybe they can trade their 25th pick and let's say a 4th round pick to get Jadeveon Clowney. I don't think he's worth 2 first round picks. He's not. He's never even had double-digit sacks. But he's got a lot of upside, There are issues money-wise that would make this a problem for the Eagles or hard for the Eagles. But I know Howie Roseman. I know Howie Roseman knows how to work out these problems, okay? Brandon Graham is $13.5 million against the cap next year. Okay, he's only like 3-something this year because of the signing bonus they gave him when he signed his contract. But he's about $13.5 million a year. Well, if he's $13.5 million, I think the Eagles would be fine to pay Jadeveon Clowney $20 million. Now the thing is they're going to have to do something with Brandon Graham's contract. They can't do it this year. They can't do it next year. But if you're in a situation, maybe you let Jadeveon Clowney play on the franchise tag. You franchise tag him one more. That's only around $15 to $17 million. Then you can sit there, and then when Graham becomes available, to move his contract, it's not going to hurt you so much. Then you give him the big contract. We also got to remember Carson Wentz needs an extension. Now, I think the Eagles most likely are looking to get that done sooner rather than later. But if they had an opportunity to get a Jadeveon Clowney, do they wait an extra year to sign Carson to an extension? I don't know. It's an interesting thought. But Jadeveon Clowney, I think, is going to be shopped around. I don't know where he's going to go. I would say that the Eagles getting him is probably like a 5% chance. This is purely speculation. I like to speculate. I like to think about all different scenarios. That's what I do. We do that with everything. I mean, that's how I get into conspiracy theories. But I think we saw this trend last year with Khalil Mack. I would not be surprised to see Jadeveon Clowney get traded. And we saw the impact that Khalil Mack made on the Bears. I think Jadeveon Clowney can make a big impact for the Eagles. Now, I don't know that they'll do this. This is purely speculation. There's things, like I said, Brandon Graham's contract, Wentz's future contract, that they have to work out. But I trust that Howie Roseman could. Maybe he would get Brandon Graham after a year to redo his contract. Look how many guys he's gotten to do that already. But Jadeveon Clowney, if he becomes available and the options for the Eagles to trade up goes away and is not there anymore, I think the Eagles should get in on this and see if they can get him. But I would not go more than a first and a fourth. That's my limit. I think he's worth that because he's so young. But I wouldn't give them any more than that, and that would be a bargain compared to what the Bears gave for Khalil Mack last year. So let me know your thoughts on it. It's just something interesting and fun to think about. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. Don't be a dingbat.